Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Holly and I'm the editor of International Airports Review, and I'm joined here by André Schneider, who is CEO of Geneva Airport. So André, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
So firstly, tell me about the CAP2030 project, which will eventually replace the main Terminal 1.
To actually understand this project, you have to know that our main terminal, which is actually our only terminal, was built in '68 for 5 million passengers. We've reached, just before the COVID crisis, 18 million. Now we have done a lot of extensions, but it's a little bit like a set of not always totally assorted pieces. And frankly, we know that between in the 2030s, this building will not be structurally sound anymore, because just we have put in too much things. So we need to replace it. And the challenge is actually we have not got space. So we have to replace it where the old terminal is standing without closing the airport. So we spent several years to actually just study how we could do that in the least impacting way. I mean, there's one way to maintain operations. That's the other way, how the passengers will feel when they have to walk through a construction site. And finally, we found the right solution, and we organized now a competition between three big construction companies to actually develop the final way to do that, and also allowing us during this competition to actually guide them to have actually a good solution. And so we will start, we have started actually the project, and we will start construction in 26, which will last all the way to 32, because in order to be able to do so, you know, we have in front of the terminal, there's a huge multi-modal platform with car parks. We have a national railway station. We have buses coming, and we want to reorganize that in a way to gain space so we can actually advance the terminal. And so the first step will be actually to redo the railway station to get a better integration, have actually the whole buses on top of the railway station. So actually you can just take an elevator to go down to from the buses to the railway. And because we are also in the northern part of the canton where we are living, we're also a distributor also of passengers which don't come to the airport, but which just go around to the region.
I see. Yes, now, of course, as you mentioned, part of the project is this ambitious bus to train to car to bike to airplane interchange. How do you see that trend of intermodality that you mentioned going forward?
Already we're in a quite specific situation. We have already 50% of our passengers who come with public transport or proper transports like bicycle or things like that. And we want to extend that one by 2030 to 58%. Because you know, we are actually 7 minutes in rail from the city center, which is very quick. And we are actually, through our national railway station, connected to all major destinations. And there is a parallel project going on by our national railway company to actually increase the trains. So we'll go up to a train every 15 minutes, going all over Switzerland. And so we really want to further that. And also having a better integration, because at the end, over 50% of our passengers are actually going on a one-day trip or on very short trips. So for them, it's almost like an extension of public transport. They might come with a train, then they go to the plane, and they want to have it as comfortable as you change in the railway station between one platform to the other. And so we are all working on quick ways, short distances, and a quick exchange.
Of course, and Swiss Airlines offer an integrated air rail ticket, meaning passengers only need to make one booking. And they recently expanded this rail network to Geneva Airport. So that's a really fantastic initiative. And do you see that trend going long term, where you will literally have one ticket that will encompass all of those modes of transport?
I think you will see multiple offerings. I mean, there will be integration with the airlines. But we also have a lot of people in Switzerland which have already a multi-travel card, so they actually don't need that anymore. So what we're more working on is actually extending the operating hours. You know, we have a first wave which leaves from 6 o'clock in the morning, so it means you have to be there at the latest 4:30. But normally in no country you have a train which brings you to an airport at 4:30 in the morning. So actually we have now a project started, at least on holiday starts or special holiday moments like Easter, where we actually organize special trains on those days, which leave like 2 o'clock in the morning throughout Switzerland and come actually in time to the Geneva Airport. So I think it's great what Swiss does, but for many Swiss users, it's actually not the most important thing. We are a big consumer of public transport, so we typically have the tickets for that. So it's really also extending the offer. Also, we are working on having later trains leaving. So when you arrive at 11:30, that you can still take the train to go wherever you want in Switzerland.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic because, like you said, not many airports, like you cannot get to many airports that early in the morning, and it can probably put some people off if they have to arrange
Yes.
a taxi.
Actually, in the city, we have already had, before that, we have 6 bus lines, which we actually pay, which start also very early in the morning. Because we are already having a program for our employees. So you cannot just come with the car to the airport. If you are better to the airport with public transport, we actually pay you the public transport and you come. But when you work the night hours, you haven't got the public transport. So we organize a special bus system, and we have transformed the most important lines into open buses, also for passengers. So it's not only the further destinations, which are coming from further down in Switzerland, but also local customers who actually have this offering. So we're trying really to extend that, because we believe that it's important, especially in very congested areas, that you actually use more and more public transport for the ease of the passengers, but also for the use of the regions.
That's great to hear. I mean, back to the CAP2030 project, what technology will you be leveraging in the terminal to ensure operational efficiency, sustainability, and a seamless experience for your passengers?
I mean, first of all, we have been one of the first airports who have actually implemented the standard 3 hand baggage scanners. Unfortunately, we lack space, so we were not able to fully replace. So everything will be standard 3 baggage scanners. But we also want not only to work on technology, but on the quality of the, how you say, the experience. So the building will be open. You will see it's on multiple floors, but you will see the floors from wherever. You can actually look up and down, and it will have everywhere windows, so you can see the Mont Blanc mountain range, you can see the Jura, because we believe that's the sense of place we can deliver, and we want to share that with people. And when you are actually coming out of the security control, you will be able to look through the whole commercial area and see on the other side the Jura and the planes standing already on the tarmac. So it's really, that is an important thing. And clearly that brings much easier flows, because it's not like an airport where you have to see, I have to go to right, because you're in kind of tunnels and you don't see where you go. You will, we want the airport to have as little signage necessary as possible, because you actually see where you want to go and you can follow that in a natural way. So it's a mix between the latest technology. Clearly, we are also rolling out a new early baggage storage system and all that stuff, like everyone does. It's clear we need that too. We will, as I said, we will improve on the security control and so on. We will also go further on self baggage check-in. We just rolled out the solution which allows you to also check in on those self baggage check-ins out of size baggage like skis, or without going to a special desk, and you can even pay there if it's an extra charge. So we will do all that, but what is even more important is we want to take the stress out of this experience, because there is stress. And one way is really to have a real sense of place, to see where you are, to be able to see where you have to go, to see outside the nature around, to really show also the beauty of where we are.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, your aeronautical revenues account for 58.7%
Yes.
compared to 41.3% for non-aero. How are you working to increase the share of non-aero and diversify?
Actually, today we are constrained because one side effect of this little terminal is that actually when you have to maintain operations with more passengers, you actually reduce commercial area because you need it for operations. So we're doing really well. We have an incredible high level of per square meter revenue, but that's just not sustainable. So what we will do is actually the new CAP 2030 terminal will create much more space for commercial. Not really to totally boost it, but to stabilize it and get also more offer, more diversity, which we are not totally able to offer. And frankly, the existing building makes very complicated pathways, so people don't actually see all the shops we have.
Yeah.
So that's what we will be doing. We're also thinking about extending, also in the same concept as I explained before, to increase passenger experience. We're also testing systems where you can actually order food or shopping wherever you are in the terminal. A little bit like Uber in the terminal. Because we see lots of people don't want to wait in the central area before going to the gate. They want to be as quickly as possible at the gate so they won't miss the flight. but then they will not, I mean, even if they would like to spend some time buying some things, they will miss out on it. So we are looking at solutions that would allow them to deliver food, drinks, but even shopping things in in even the gates. And so that's another thing we want to look at. And clearly, the other challenge is naturally we are in a very high investing time, which means also a fair share of the charges goes now in the amortization of those buildings. So we have a little bit of structural, how you say, overshoot, if I'm or higher level of airport charges, because actually, you know, we have the big part of our buildings are actually 68 or earlier. So we have a little bit of a backlog of that, and we need to then get this money back in also.
Now, for several years now, Geneva Airport has been offering financial incentives to encourage your airlines to use latest generation aircraft, thereby helping limit noise and carbon emissions. In 2023, the share of that latest generation airliners and charters was 32.53% of your movements compared to 25% the year before. So this shows that your incentives are working. Do you have any other sustainability initiatives that you offer to your stakeholders in your airport?
Okay, plenty of them. But before going there, let me just contextualize what that means. I mean, first of all, those planes actually produce 40% less noise. So it has a huge impact on our noise. But what is even more interesting, they're actually also consuming less kerosene. And if you calculate that, what this produces, this effect of having these movements in addition of SAF, which is the big thing now, we're currently with this level at 4.9% of SAF added, which is already much more than the mandate, which will start next year. So that's just to put, I mean, so that's actually another way to reduce CO2 emissions in a nice way, because it does also deal with the noise. Now, other initiatives which we have, as I explained, how the people come to the airport. Because using public transport, especially in Switzerland, it's all electrified. Our local transport system will move totally CO2 free over the next years. So that's one thing. The other thing is we're currently replacing all our heating and cooling, which is 60% of the CO2 emissions of the airport, with a system which uses cold water pumped out of the close by lake. And we then run it through heat pumps if we want to create heat, or we run it through the roofs of the buildings to cool the buildings. And then we can actually use the heat we pull out when we cool them to re-inject it in heating, and then we use geothermal to actually store that if we don't need it. So that's another project. It will go live in the next 3 years. We are also totally electrifying all the traffic on the tarmac. We have today over 30% of the vehicles already electrified, and we will be at 90% in 2030. As I said, we have a target to reduce our noise by 2030 compared to today by 20%, which we're already reaching, which is actually more than what Schiphol has to do if they reduce their movements. And it's possible without reducing movements. We're not reducing movements. We're actually working on the latest generation planes and also on some problems of late delays in the evening. And there are many others. We try to really make it central part of our strategy, because very often those movements do not only reduce our environmental impact, but they actually are sensible either for the other actors. Look at the incentives with the airlines, which are replacing all their fleets, or they are actually also interesting for us, because we will, within 3 years, pay less for all our heating and cooling than we have ever paid before. So, and it will take us another 6 or 7 years to actually fully amortize the investments we have done. So frankly, it's not just doing the right thing, it's actually also making it economically viable.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that information. I mean, it
You're
sounds
welcome.
fantastic. But thinking a bit more short term then this year, you know, as airport CEO, what are you most looking forward to this year?
I mean, first of all, I have to look forward. I will go on retirement a little bit later this year, because I've reached the Swiss retirement age. So, but what I'm looking forward to is actually we are now gonna really launch this terminal replacement project. We are currently finalizing our total review of our baggage sorting system. So there's lots of things. We are also looking forward at less funny things like the introduction of the European entry system, which we're all a little bit worried about. And also we have reached this year financially, really, we exited the COVID impact. We're still having debt to reduce, but we have a better profitability than from before the crisis. And we have also started to get better ratings also by the banks, which is good for our financing also. So it's really, at least I have the feeling we have survived the COVID. We've not had all those operational problems many other airports had because we decided not to lay off people. And we're now actually getting back to a moment where actually, even with less traffic than before the crisis, we're winning more money. So it's, I think I can say I will leave the house cleaned.
Absolutely. But just picking up on that, on the entry-exit system coming in this year, what is worrying you about that?
Look, the thing is, the decision has been taken that every non-visa person which comes out of Schengen in needs to sign up at the airport the first time. This is a process which takes at least a minute or 2 minutes. Now, when you have a big flight arriving, it has to be done in front of a kiosk. And so that will create lots of delays, which will create lots of queues. And in one stage, we might overrun our capacity to hold people that long. And the second problem is they will have to be checked of what they registered there by the border control person. So it's another minute again. So it's a very heavy process. And unfortunately, it will be introduced in October, which is just before the winter season starts, when we get all the UK skiers coming, which will all have to go through this process. Already now it's quite complicated because UK exited the UE, so it's actually for us aligned with the UE classified as third-party country, and that is already quite difficult to manage. If I add to that on the EES, we're a little bit concerned how we handle that because we actually have our highest passenger peaks not in the summer but in the winter.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And when is your retirement?
Huh?
When is your retirement?
Around the same date. So we'll try to make sure that everything runs as well as possible.
Yeah.
But we are afraid that it will create quite some disruption and bad experience for end users. But it's not in our hands, really.
Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for that really in-depth answer. André, that was my final question. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.